There's something different in the air when you land in Sweden. The light feels cooler, thinner. The space around you is quieter, more open, like the land is giving you permission to breathe. Here, time doesn't rush. It rolls, gently, deliberately, like mist off a pine forest. From the first moment, Sweden doesn't just ask you to look, it invites you to slow down, to feel. The journey begins in Stockholm, the capital, but not a capital like most. Built on 14 islands, where Lake Mälaren meets the Baltic Sea, Stockholm is more archipelago than metropolis. Its waterways are not borders, they are veins. Bridges, boats, and ferries form the rhythm of daily life. And everything is touched by water, the air, the views, the sound of gulls over stone. You arrive not into chaos, but into calm. The airport is efficient. The train to the city glides through green fields, through clusters of red wooden houses and birch trees, and then suddenly, there it is. Stockholm. Elegant. Understated. Softly glowing, especially in the golden evening light of spring or the long twilight of early autumn. Gamla Stan, the old town, is your first stop. A medieval maze of cobblestone alleys and ochre facades, it rises like a preserved memory above the water. You walk without a plan. Past street musicians playing folk tunes on violin. Past windows of antique bookstores and cafes serving cinnamon buns still warm from the oven. It's here you first understand fika, not just a coffee break, but a pause, a ritual. A moment to connect. You sip. You breathe. You stay. The royal palace stands stoically nearby, less flamboyant than other monarchies, yet solid in presence. The Swedish monarchy is more symbolic than sovereign, but its place in public life, like everything in Sweden, is quiet, functional, and intentional. You sense that nothing here is accidental. The way buildings face the sun. The balance between green space and stone. The respect for personal space. Stockholm doesn't dazzle. It earns your admiration slowly, with thoughtfulness. Museums are everywhere, each one a window into the country's layered past. You board a ferry and cross to Djurgården, where the Vasa Museum houses a full 17th century warship, pulled from the sea and restored in its tragic, breathtaking glory. Nearby, Skansen, the world's first open-air museum, lets you walk through time itself. Historic Swedish houses, farms, and craftspeople give life to the old ways. It's not performance, it's preservation. And across the path, the ABBA Museum reminds you that modern Sweden, too, has shaped the world in sound and style. But Stockholm isn't all history. It's one of the world's most forward-thinking cities. You head to Södermalm, once working class, now a hub of design, music, and fashion. Record stores, eco-boutiques, vegan bakeries. You talk to locals who speak fluent English but think in Swedish structure, measured, inclusive, unpretentious. In this city, sustainability isn't a trend. It's a mindset. Garbage is sorted meticulously. Buildings are powered by renewables. Bikes outnumber cars. And yet, it never feels forced. It just feels normal. You take a day trip out into the Stockholm archipelago, boarding a slow ferry as the sun rises over the city's waterfront. Thousands of islands, some rocky and bare, others thick with pines, stretch east into the sea. You pass cabins painted red and white, saunas with wooden docks, children waving from shore. You disembark on one of the quieter islands, hike a short forest trail, and find yourself alone at the edge of a bay. The water laps gently. A sea eagle circles overhead. And in that moment, you understand something deeper. Sweden is not made for spectacle. It's made for stillness. Heading south, you travel to the region of Skåne, Sweden's gentle farmland, often overlooked in favor of the dramatic north, but rich in history and hospitality. The train takes you through wide fields and wind turbines, through towns with names like Hässleholm and Eslöv, until you arrive in Malmö. Sweden's third-largest city is a mix of grit and innovation. Once an industrial port, now a green tech hub, Malmö is defined by contrasts: historic streets and modern skyscrapers, immigrant neighborhoods and global startups. You walk along Ribersborg Beach, where locals sunbathe in summer or plunge into icy waters in winter, before running into the city's famed cold bathhouse, open air, clothing optional, and powered by both tradition and bravado. Then you visit Turning Torso, a spiraling white tower that reflects Sweden's design-forward philosophy, innovation with clarity, form that follows function. From Malmö, it's a short train ride to Lund, a university town filled with centuries of scholarship and youthful energy. Cobbled lanes, cafes overflowing with conversation, and a magnificent 12th century cathedral form its heart. In summer, students spill into the parks and study under the endless light. In winter, candles flicker in windows and libraries glow like sanctuaries. Ystad comes next, a coastal gem of half-timbered houses and slow rhythms. Known to many through the fictional detective Wallander, the real town is anything but dark. You stroll the harbor, breathe the Baltic wind, and end the day with freshly caught herring and a view of the horizon that seems to stretch forever. Southern Sweden is not showy. It's soft, intimate, but it stays with you. Everywhere you go, the red cottages reappear. With white trim and moss-covered roofs, they dot the countryside like folklore made real. They are not just aesthetic, they are symbolic. They speak of humility, tradition, and a closeness to the land. Often, they are summer homes, passed down through generations. Here, Swedes retreat, not to escape life, but to remember what it really is. You spend a night in one of them. No TV. No internet. Just a wood stove, a simple bed, and the sound of the wind through birch trees. You read. You write. You cook a basic meal and eat it slowly. You feel the space you didn't know you'd lost, slowly opening again inside you. As your final days in the south approach, you begin to notice more than the beauty. You notice the balance. Public spaces are clean, but not sterile. Cities are efficient, but not soulless. People are private, but not unfriendly. It's a country that runs on consensus and calm. The drama is in the details. The joy is in the quiet. Your last stop before heading north is Uppsala, just an hour from Stockholm. A city of students, scientists, and saints. You walk past the cathedral, the tallest in Scandinavia. You explore the university where Carl Linnaeus once taught, the man who gave the world taxonomy. You visit his garden, where every plant has a name, a place, a purpose. And you realize, Sweden has always been about order, but not control. Structure, without stiffness. Progress, without arrogance. Standing on the riverbank at dusk, watching the lights reflect off the water, you think back over these first few hundred kilometers. From island cities to rural trails. From coffee rituals to cathedral bells. From quiet ferries to minimalist towers. Sweden has not overwhelmed you. It has grounded you. Leaving the gentle farmland and city lights of southern Sweden, the journey bends inward, into the vast, wooded heart of the country. This is not a region of tourist slogans or flashy landmarks. It's a place where time loosens its grip, where space expands, where every sound is softened by moss and pine needles. Central Sweden doesn't ask you to visit. It waits for you to arrive, on your own terms. The train north moves through an increasingly green world. Forests blur past the windows, endless pines and birches, lakes glinting like hidden coins. You pass small towns with short names and long histories. Falun, Mora, Orbro. Towns that feel lived in, not curated. The kind where everyone knows the postman, and the forest begins just beyond the backyard. You arrive in Dalarna, a region often called the cultural heart of Sweden. And it feels exactly like that. Red-painted cottages with white corners, flags fluttering in soft breeze, lakes that hold the sky like a mirror. This is the Sweden people imagine, and yet it's not a postcard. It's alive. You walk through villages where traditional costumes are still worn on holidays. Where every garden seems to grow rhubarb and every porch has a hand-carved dollar horse standing guard. In midsummer, Dalarna becomes the center of something deeply Swedish. You find yourself in a meadow, surrounded by flower crowns, laughter, and the steady rhythm of a fiddle. The Gamla Stan, the maypole, is raised with ceremony and joy. People dance in circles, children sing old songs, and tables groan under the weight of herring, potatoes, strawberries, and snaps. It's not performative. It's ritual. The summer solstice is not just a celebration of light, it's a reclaiming of life after months of shadow. You stay in a lakeside cabin not far from Lake Siljan, formed by a meteorite millions of years ago. The air is different here, soaked in pine and lake mist. You wake to birdsong and the hush of water lapping against the dock. You swim in the morning, the water colder than expected, the sky endlessly wide. You read without distraction. You eat slowly. The silence becomes a kind of music. Everywhere you go in the heartland, there's a sense of modest pride. Locals speak little at first, but with warmth once the barrier breaks. Conversations unfold like a trail through the woods, meandering, unhurried, full of small discoveries. They tell you about traditions, about long winters and strong coffee, about berry picking in August and the first frost of October. About their children's forest schools, where outdoor learning happens even in the snow. About the moose that wander through their yards and the wolves they rarely see, but always sense. Nature isn't something people visit in this part of Sweden. It's something they live inside. Trails lead into national parks like Fulufjallet, where waterfalls drop from cliff faces and the trees include some of the oldest on Earth. Old Jikko, a spindly spruce in the park, is over 9,500 years old, one of the oldest known living organisms on the planet. You stand near it, wind brushing the back of your neck, and feel the weight of time. Here, nature isn't decoration. It's continuity. You hike through Tiveden National Park, where moss covers boulders the size of cars and narrow paths wind between towering pines. It feels enchanted, like a place stories are born. And in fact, it is. Sweden's folklore is thick with forest spirits, trolls, and hidden beings. Not just tales to scare children, but metaphors for the deep, complex relationships Swedes have with the wild. In a land where humans are outnumbered by trees and lakes, imagination has long been a survival tool. You spend days meandering through this middle Sweden, sleeping in guesthouses, cooking over open fires, sharing meals with locals. A smoked fish here. A slice of Västerbotten cheese there. Flatbread, cloudberry jam, crisp bread with butter and salt. The cuisine is hearty and regional. Not for show, but for life. You visit a small bakery that's been using the same sourdough starter for over a century. A roadside farm stand with eggs, potatoes, and a handwritten sign saying, "Take what you need. Leave what you can." In Östersund, you cross into Jämtland, a region of strong local identity and endless horizon lines. The town feels like a mix of tradition and progress. There's an experimental food scene, driven by wild ingredients. There's also a reindeer population that moves through the forests as it has for millennia. Here, the Sami influence begins to reappear. You see flags, hear language, find handicrafts that blend beauty and utility. A woven knife sheath. A reindeer horn spoon. A bracelet threaded with pewter and leather. The road takes you to Alvdalen, where an old dialect is still spoken, a language older than modern Swedish, closer to Old Norse. In this pocket of the country, history isn't just preserved, it's lived. People here know where they come from. And they are in no hurry to let that go. The further north you travel, the more the light begins to stretch. Days grow longer, even in early spring. Sunset blurs into sunrise. And in this softened, stretched light, everything feels more spacious. Even your thoughts. You realize that travel here is not about checking places off a list, it's about noticing. The way the wind sounds in different forests. The way locals wave as they pass on narrow country roads. The way the shadows shift as the sun slides sideways through the trees. You stop at a roadside lake just off a forest trail. There's no one around. You make a fire in the stone ring left by 1,000 campers before you. You heat coffee in a blackened pot, eat hard bread with cheese, and listen to loons calling across the water, to leaves moving gently overhead, to your own breathing, finally slowed to match the pace of the land. That night, in a tiny inn with no sign, the owner tells you something simple that stays with you. This place, she says, doesn't try to be special. It just is. And that's enough. You nod, but later you realize she wasn't just talking about her village. She was talking about all of Sweden's heartland. It doesn't announce itself. It welcomes you. And if you take the time to be still, it will show you a version of life that feels increasingly rare, unhurried, grounded, quietly luminous. As you prepare to cross the invisible line into the north, the landscapes begin to shift again. The trees thin. The air cools. The sky widens. The Arctic Circle is ahead. And with it, the rhythm of life changes completely. But before you go, you take one last walk in the forest. No destination. No map. Just a trail and time. And as you move between the birches and beneath the vast northern sky, you understand why Sweden isn't just a place to visit. It's a place to remember who you are when the noise finally fades.